Hello and welcome to your scheduled Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review. Well, this Abyss bleeds quite heavily into 5.7 and is tailored for the characters in its banners. I think it's more appropriate to call the video 5.6.5, with the proper association being June of 2025. Holy fuck, we are halfway through the year, huh? Anyway, today's Abyss was, I would say, not the worst nor the best. It has some easy chambers, but some pretty frustrating ones. And the enemies plus boss chambers seem to have become the absolute norm for now, at least for everything except 12.3 for the most part. And I would like to preface something here before we jump into the Abyss. The background footage will jump a bit after the Floor 11 footage. That is because my first run of the Abyss was not recorded correctly. To quickly tell you what happened, I undervolted my GPU a little bit too much, and while just gaming everything is perfect, gaming plus recording seems to not be, and the footage was 10 FPS, which is unfortunate as I do really like showing you my first run of an Abyss. It's sort of like a honesty kind of thing, because, you know, you might clear the Abyss in your first run, but it's not going to be perfect because you don't know the enemy spawns, you don't know this or that. So, you know, I kind of like to show that because, hey, if I fail my first run, I failed, and again, it feels more like an honesty thingy, instead of telling you, hey, this Abyss was perfectly easy, and the background footage is my 10th run of it, right? Like, I don't feel like that's, you know, kind of, again, honest. So that's that. I kind of fucked up when recording because of that, but I then went to re-record stuff. So that's what I mean by it will jump a bit, because in the middle of my run I realized it. So that's where the floor 12 footage starts from. So anyway, let's dive deep into this Abyss and see what's going on. Starting with floor 11, which begins without a monolith defense. 11-1 just has enemies, and pretty easy ones. The first half just contains mushrooms with some of the Fontaine sea creatures spliced in alongside one Electro Lavature, while the second half has 2 Vishhaps and 2 Hydro Eidolons. They're not the local legend variant, they're just Hydro Eidolons, and they're in 11-1, so they're extremely easy. 3 Vaporized targets as well. Moving on to 11-2, my goodness. The Shadow Knights are back, and we have 2 waves of them. The first ones is 3 of them, each of their own kind, followed by 2 Anemo ones. Own kind, I know the flag bearer, the shield guy, and that stuff. And then again, there's 2 Anemo sword guys. Being in floor 11, these guys are very easy, and Anemo CC trivializes them, so you should not have any trouble. The second half, though, is much more interesting. It begins with a Fatui Electro Hammer and Cryo Gunner, but these are the local legend variants. At least the Cryo guy, which is the really noticeable one. If you haven't fought them before, when the Cryo guy dies, he spawns a giant, and it almost covers all of the Abyss, a giant Cryo field that deals constant damage. Here, the individual ticks aren't that strong, but the damage adds up very quickly, but thankfully you won't get one-shot like in the overworld. And being these kinds of enemies, you will need Pyro and Cryo to break their shields, because they don't take any significant damage from other elements. Although, if you have someone like Jan or Kazuha, you can stand on the Cryo field, and especially Jan with her Anemo Purging effect will swirl Cryo and break the Electro Hammer's shield. So you can just ignore the Cryo requirement for the Electro Hammer, and again, use this kind of trick with Jan to do it. But being in 11-2, you do have extra time to clear the chamber, so you can just sit there for a minute or two and kill them through their shields. But the half isn't over yet, because after them is a Cryo Wayob. A super annoying enemy, but being in 11-2, it's not much. And to finish off floor 11 with 11-3, the first half begins with an Electro Lector, and I hope you like this guy because he will come back later, followed by a Pyro Wayob, where the same stuff as the Cryo Wayob before applies. Even 11-3, these things aren't much of a problem. They are both here because Skirk and Mavuika, who is rerunning later, don't use energy, so they don't get affected. And on the second half is the Turtle local legend from the starting Natlan areas, which is very interesting to see it here. Now, honestly, this thing is extremely easy here in 11-3, although its stupid mechanic when it has its shield up where it constantly deals damage to you is still very annoying, but thankfully, like the Cryo Gunner, the ticks aren't that much of a problem, but just don't let them stack up. And that's floor 11. It's an interesting one. It's chock full of counters for Skirk and Mavuika to use, but there's nothing really exclusive to them that other teams will not take care of. Now, we move on to floor 12, and of course we begin with the buffs. that are pretty specific this time around, mainly the first half one. So, in the first half, you gain a 75% damage boost, but only when your character's energy is 0, which yes, is only done for Mavuika, and yes, not even for Skirk here, because spoilers, as you will see in the enemy lineup, you will not use Skirk in the first halves. So only Mavuika really uses this buff, which is insane. Now you might think, well, gee, everybody can be at 0 energy, right? So even for a second, will I deal extra damage? And the answer is 95% of the time, no, because this is Genshin. If you know how to play well, you know to funnel particles while the burst animation is going on, so you will lose the damage buff. Additionally, this is Genshin. There are particles everywhere, so even if you don't funnel them, some skill that you have deployed will summon a particle and lose you the damage bonus. So no, even with nuke bursts like or Arlecchino, you are very most likely not going to get the buff. As for the second halves, it's kind of better, but not so much. It's a 75% damage boost to cryo normal attacks, which is made for Skirk, but some other cryo characters can use it. Mainly Risley will really appreciate it. I guess you can hit some normal attack to charge attacks with Ayaka to just add up a bit of damage as your burst is going on. And that's about it. Unless you're running some mad Charlotte DPS build, you won't really use this. Although you can use Chongyun to infuse everybody's attacks, so you can run him with someone like Kaeya, hell even on field like Shenhe or someone, and the damage will work, so I don't know, try it out. We actually will be coming back to Chongyun while looking at 12 too, but enough of that, let's begin floor 12. So, 12-1 is not that hard of a chamber, thank fuck, compared to previous abysses where 12-1 was really annoying. The first half begins with 2 Cryosystem mages, which, holy fuck, they remember these enemies exist, followed by their big sister basically, which is the Natlan priest girl with her clones mechanic. She isn't actually that annoying, and the clones will try to attack you, even if like you see them like all around the arena, they will teleport in to attack you one after the other, and just 1 to 2 pyro hits will destroy them, or even electro hits. Heck, if you get lucky when you destroy some of the clones, the boss will appear because she's hiding in them for a second before she goes back into hiding, allowing you to get a cheap hit in if you're using some sort of pyro main DPS. But once all clones are destroyed, she just falls to the ground for quite some time. That should allow you to basically kill her. Maybe she'll get 1 or more attacks in after that, but if your team is good, then she should not do the clone thingy again. If she does, then you're kind of gonna be running low on time, if that is. Then, on the second half, it begins with some ruin enemies, followed by the PMA, Perpetual Mechanical Array. Simple boss, yes, both the bosses in 12-1 have some sort of gimmick that does eat up your time, but their HP is pretty low, honestly, especially the PMA, so even with these gimmicks, the fights and the chamber don't feel that bad to go through, so it's honestly pretty fine. It's a perfectly fine chamber. Thank fuck. Also, since it's 12-1, you can change your teams and re-challenge the chamber immediately, rather than needing to go through other ones. But then comes 12-2, and why? Just why does this chamber exist, man? So, in the first half, you begin with 3 Yamkasauruses, followed by the fat fucking Mountain King. Now, since you had the priest in 12-1, you most likely have some sort of pyro to infuse the fruits and make him take some really good damage. But even without a pyro character, maybe you brought an electro character for the cryo shield or for the priest, you can use Kazuha or Jan and just stand on the burning ground that it creates at the beginning of the fight, so you self-infuse yourself with pyro, and there's no need for pyro characters then. With Jan, she will again swirl purge you with her anemo effect, and activate the fruits. Kazuha will, with the self-infusion, will easily infuse his burst and his plunge attack. So yeah, it becomes really easy to not use a pyro character. If you have some sort of high damaging team that doesn't have a pyro character, because this Mountain King doesn't need any specific mechanic like cryo shields before, right? You know, maybe your team is like a Nuvillet team with electro characters, right? So you brute force through the priest, and then again you use Jan or Kazuha here using this trick. The reason why I am saying this because of the second half, where you would want a really good time on the first half, because my goodness, this second half is the Lector and Seahorse combo from like 5.5 Abyss, but moved to 12-2 now, so they have more HP, yay! Thankfully, the buffs are much better now, at least for the Lector Seahorse half, so that can help you shave off some seconds, because last time they appeared, the buffs were Geo and Cryo skill buffs, which no one uses. Also, before the boss in the first half was the Hydro Tulpa, where with Pyro DPSs you could delete this thing in a minute or less, leaving you with plenty of time to take care of this combo. But now with Mountain King, while yes you don't get free vaporizes, the damage you cause through the fruits is very, very significant, which cancels out the advantages and disadvantages of the change in bosses. So you basically have the same amount of time to take care of the Lector Seahorse combo while having a much, much better buff for your Cryo DPSs. So it kind of ends up better, but it's still the Lector Seahorse combo, a horrendously time-wasting combo with the Lector Shield and the huge damage reduction the Seahorse has while the Pearl is up. And of course, I ain't forgetting about its bullshit design that is completely intentional. It's intentionally coded to fly up into the air when the Pearl gets low on HP. It's not because you took too long to break it. No. If the Pearl gets low on HP, that is the first thing it will think of doing. Fuck this boss. Bring a bunch of Cryo or Pyro, that can be another choice, some mono Pyro team with someone like Arlecchino. You can try Dendro, as it is okay against the Electro Shields, but it most likely will not perform as good as you might think. Now, spoilers for Imaginarium Theater, if we did have the Cryo plus Dendro reactions that they put in Imaginarium Theater, that would be pretty nice, and seeing some of the effects that they did put in Imaginarium Theater, it might have actually been really, really good against this combo, but that is not in the main game. And here is where I wanted to mention Chongyun, as I decided to try out a little trick that existed back when the Hydro Heralds first appeared. Yes, that way back. Where using Chongyun to infuse your team's attacks, you could switch between team members and weave in cryo hits that sort of ignored the internal cooldown of applying elements, because you constantly switched enemies, you constantly switched characters, and it just skipped the 1.5 regular ICD. So you just perma-froze the Herald. So I wanted to see if I could do the same here, and honestly, Chongyun did really, really well. I ran him with Sacrificial Greatsword in order to battery everyone, as well as trigger one of his talents that gives Cryo Res Shred when you re-trigger his skill because of Sacrificial. When the skill ends, a sword drops on the enemy and that reduces Cryo resistance. Also, his burst does quite a few ticks of Cryo, and it does significant damage to the Pearl and the Lector. So add that up, plus he also doesn't need a lot of energy recharge. Just with the Sacrificial thingy, he immediately gets his burst up. Add that up to the constant character switching trick, and if the Seahorse doesn't move to the other side of the arena with its stupid attacks, it gets destroyed. So if you want to have some nice fun with Chongyun and other Cryo characters that don't normally have Cryo attacks to use the buff, go right ahead. You will have some great fun, I bet. My Ayaka died in the background footage because of I didn't really care, because it was just like my 6th run of the Abyss. And I was seeing like Kaeya deal like 12k per normal attack hit with the Cryo infusion. So I'm like, damn, this actually kind of works. If I built a team around Kaeya, this would be even better. So yeah, this cancer combo is back. But having a bit of experience, with previous Abysses, I did know the hell that was awaiting me, so I was prepared to deal with it, but it doesn't take away from how annoying this combo is. And want to know something fun about it? Hours before the Abyss went live, yes, hours, just a little bit before the 16th, they changed this chamber and this half. Ladies and gents, there used to be 2 Lectors, which, depending on where they spawned, could have not made that much of a difference necessarily, or have made it impossible to deal with 12-2. If these motherfuckers were on other sides of the arena, they would have been absolute... I actually don't know if anybody without good constellations and like really good damage, or I guess just fucking Escoffier, would have been able to deal with this combo. Right? If there were 2 Lectors and they were annoying and they were away from each other. Like, that would have been cancer. So, thank fuck somebody had 2 screws in their head and deleted the other Lector. Holy shit, imagine. Anyway, I want to get away from this cancerous chamber, so let's finish off with 12-3. It begins with some simple Fontaine mechas, followed by the Icewind Suit Coppelius version. Since all of the other chambers kinda want pyro, you most likely have a pyro character, and since it is in the last chamber, you don't need to go through a slog of a fight if you want to use the trick that I gave you for the Mountain King. Also, Electro works against the thing as well, although you might need to choose your Electro character really well. Again, if you're running something like a Nuvilet or who knows, you might need to choose your Electro character carefully, because if you bring someone like Raiden, let's say, her skill doesn't work. Anyway, even without the Pneumousia stuff, which I bet you have completely forgotten about that this boss uses, Coppelius' shield is not strong at all, even if he gets 3 of them, and their HP is quite low, even for 12-3, so it's an easy boss that has appeared here quite a few times before, so you should be pretty, capable of defeating Coppelius. And as for the second half, it's the new secret source automaton overseer thingy, whatever the fuck, that needs cryo. So, this boss is extremely easy, even with one cryo character. It begins the fight with its energy accumulation phase, where you need to hit it with cryo to stop the accumulation of energy. And it will do this while taking full damage for quite some time, so it's just a stationary target. And then if you haven't killed it, it will do 1 to 2 attacks at most, and go back to the energy accumulation again. Main tip, really main tip, is that while it is in its animation to go change modes, either from the energy accumulation or to the energy accumulation, it does get big damage reduction. But it's for a very small time, so just wait a second and then throw everything you got. It won't accumulate any significant amount of energy within that second that you waited, so you aren't running any sort of risk. Now, this thing does have some Night Soul detection stuff where it loses resistance to become aggressive, but tell me, what would you prefer? A stationary target with normal resistances that you reduce on your own with like a Viridescent holder, or an aggressive target with slightly lower res? I'll take the stationary target, thank you very much. So this boss is easy as hell. Once again, it's in 12-3, so if you wanted to use a Pyro team against the Cancer combo, you don't need to go through this to do that. And that's it, like that's really nice. It's in 12-3, again, you can go through 12-1 and 12-2 with a Pyro team to delete the fucking Seahorse and fucking forget about it. And this sits in 12-3 for when you want to go with a Cryo team. And yeah, that's it. That is floor 12. 12-1 and 12-3 are very manageable, but 12-2 is such a sour point for this Abyss. It could have been a perfectly fine Abyss with many counters, but nope, they had to put in that Cancer combo and ruin the vibe. Also, the first half buff is useless to anybody not named Mavuika. And as you saw from the enemies in the first halves, you ain't bringing Skirk to them. So, yeah. Anyway, shall we finish this video off with Imaginarium Theater? I'll talk about the new mode at the end if you are curious. So, this Imaginarium Theater was very, very interesting, which is... Holy fuck, I never expected to say this about Imaginarium Theater with how the past year has been for it. And that is, as I hinted before, we had Electro, Cryo, and Dendro as our elements. Now, usually this would not be a good combo because while the Dendro and Electro characters are having fun with Aggravate and Spread, Cryo is sitting there doing nothing really, and Superconduct ain't doing it chief. But they decided to add Cryo plus Dendro reactions in the buffs you can choose, which made things 100% more interesting with actual effects you could see and feel during a fight compared to the other ones. So this Imaginarium Theater was actually not bad at all, and the bosses, believe it or not, were also not bad. Like, genuinely, fucking imagine that not putting a shitty element combo and not putting bullshit bosses, like fucking having Asimon in an Imaginarium Theater that doesn't have Electro plus Dendro, or, okay, if you have Al-Haytham, you can invite him and keep him all around for the Asimon at the end. Like, if you don't do that, Imaginarium Theater is actually going to be fun. So let's begin with the bosses. First up is the Terror Shroom, which is incredibly easy. You want to go Classic Quicken against it? Go ahead. You want to try out a Cryo DPS with a new reaction? Go ahead, it'll take full damage. After it is the local legend Vishap from the Sea of Bygone Eras, which at some point will get a Hydro Shield, and I think it also eats up your energy if you are close to it. But guess what? You have 3 elements that counter that shield, and you also have the 1 element that is its main counter, so it's piss easy. And then for the normal mode, the final boss is Asimon in an Imaginarium Theater that has Electro plus Dendro, so it's a perfectly normal fight. And for Visionary mode, the last boss is the new Automaton, but you have Cryo and the new reaction, so it ends up being super easy. Holy shit! Again, it's almost as if it's not that hard to make a not annoying Imaginarium Theater. As for the starting cast, we have Senno, who is unfortunately just weak on his own. Couple that with a 4-star weapon, where the gap between 4-star weapons and 5-star weapons is pretty big for him, so he's just a bit weak. Now, he's at the starting cast, so you'll use him in the starting acts, where the enemies aren't that tough, so he ends up being fine. But again, it's unfortunately Senno, who doesn't have really good teammates right now. Then comes Fischl, that pisses me off, because he's not running Golden Troop, which is undoubtedly, like uncontentionally, her best set. She's running Gladiator plus Thundering Fury, which has no place here. Just give her Golden Troop, and her damage becomes much better. At the very least, give her 4-piece Thundering Fury. Like, at the very least. But Golden Troop is right there. And it pisses me off because right next to her is Chi-Chi, who, I mean, thank fuck for the new reaction, she's not completely useless, but it's her build that mainly makes her that, because they gave her the healing set that buffs in giant quotation marks, buffs damage of other party members when you overheal, but it is completely useless. The numbers on that set are dog shit, even on Chi-Chi. They should have given her Clam so that she pops 30k plus bubbles, and with Electro there, you can proc Superconduct, which is the only way to make the bubbles deal more damage. So they went through the trouble of not putting Chi-Chi into the Clam build and put her into this useless healing set, but they did not go through the trouble to update Fischl and give her Golden Troop. Why? Simply why? Anyway, then there's Mika running Favonius, which is fine, but with HP and ER artifacts, which are fine, but he could run Noblesse for a bit of a buff to the team. It's much better to just run Noblesse on him rather than give him stats, because he already has good stats, honestly. And finally is Nahida and Collei, both running Deepwood, thank fuck. Nahida is using Evening Moonstar, which is a fine weapon for her, although it needs refinements to really shine. And Collei is using Stringless, which isn't the worst, but I would much rather run Favonius on her. So the starting cast isn't really that strong, but no really crazy stupid shit, except for the Fischl and Chi-Chi stuff. But overall, it's a fine Imaginarium Theater. I can't believe that we needed a whole ass year to get a fun Imaginarium Theater. And that is mainly because they actually put more than a minute of thought into those reaction buffs. And that's it for the Abyss and Imaginarium Theater of June 2025. Now, as for the new mode, I will first cover it in the version review of 5.7 and most likely in version reviews after that. And with more and more details coming out about it, it seems like it's not going to be fun for everyone. I suggest that you really check the Genshin leak subreddit, although right now we have leaks for 5.8, so you might not want to do that, but you might want to search up the really fine details on this new mode, because there's a lot of misinformation going out on it on social media. It's not good. It's not good. Hopefully maybe they change it right before it comes out, maybe, but with the details that we have right now, no, people, you're not gonna be able to get those weapon skins. Nope. No. If you know the details, you ain't. Anyway, so with that, I leave you with this video. Like it if you like the video, sub to help the channel out. I will see you, I guess, in another Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review, because 5.7 just started. It most likely will run through July, so we will see it. So it will cover a reset of the Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. So we most likely have an Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review before the 5.7 review. Check the 5.6 review that I posted a bit ago. And yeah, no Skirk review because I don't like her. She needs a Scoffier to really shine, which I especially don't like. And there's no other character that I'm interested at. Definitely not Shenhe and definitely not Mavuika. So unfortunately, we're going a bit sleeper right now. We're gonna chill a bit until mid-July, where again, Abyss and Imaginarium Theater is gonna come back. So Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.